The President of the Legislative Council. Questions. Apart from 6 oral questions for this meeting, I have permitted Mr. Ma Fung-kwok to ask an urgent question under Rule 24.4 of the Rules of Procedure. Mr. Ma Fung-kwok. Thank you, Mr. President. It was noted a former analyst of the Central Intelligence Agency of the United States disclosed in a recent interview with the South China Morning Post that the U.S. government had been hacking into the computer systems in both Hong Kong and the mainland since 2009 and had acquired huge quantity of communications information, and the targets included the computer systems of the Chinese University of Hong Kong, local public officers, enterprises, and students. In this connection, will the government inform this council, first, whether the authorities have taken immediate and effective measures since the aforesaid report was published in the newspapers to ensure that the overall network and computer systems in Hong Kong will not be hacked? If they have of the details, if not, how the authorities ensure that the information security in Hong Kong will not be threatened? Second, whether the government has immediately followed up the aforesaid report with the relevant authorities of the U.S. and taken immediate and necessary remedial and preventive measures in respect of information security, if it has of the details, if not, the reasons for that. And third, as it has been reported that the aforesaid person is now in Hong Kong and that he has indicated that he worries about his personal safety because he has received reliable information that the U.S. government has requested for extraditing him to the U.S., whether the authorities have received any relevant request from the U.S. government, and whether they have assessed if the personal safety of the person is under threat. If they have received such request or the assessment outcome is that the personal safety of that person is under threat, of the immediate follow-up questions to be taken up by the authorities. Secretary for Security. Mr. President, the major issues raised in the members' question concern network security, information security, and combating technology crimes such as hacker intrusion into local computer systems. These issues are related to the policy areas of the Security Bureau and the Commerce and Economic Development Bureau. Our consolidated reply is as follows. First, to promote information system security and combat technology crimes, the Office of the Government Chief Information Officer, OGCIO, and the Hong Kong Police Force, the police, have adopted a series of measures in collaboration with industry and relevant stakeholders to promote the importance of protecting computer systems and network security. The administration is also very concerned about recent media reports which allege that local computer systems have been hacked. The departments concerned have already taken immediate actions to review the relevant information security arrangements. Regarding the information security within government, the OGCIO has formulated comprehensive information security policies and guidelines for compliance and reference by bureaus and departments, so as to ensure that they have taken appropriate and sufficient measures to protect the security of their systems and data, with a view to minimizing the risk of information security attacks and hacker intrusion, as well as enabling bureaus and departments to take appropriate response in case of incidents. To protect against information security attacks and intrusion by hackers, bureaus and departments have implemented the following specific measures. First, install firewalls, antivirus software, and intrusion detection prevention systems or Internet gateways to protect critical systems against security threats. Second, timely update system software and patches, and use latest virus signature files to prevent infection of malware. Third, encrypt all confidential data during storage and transmission. And fourth, conduct regular security risk assessment and audit for critical information technology systems. In response to newspaper reports mentioning that Hong Kong and mainland computer systems have been hacked, the OGCIO has taken the following measures to ensure that there are property security arrangements for government network and systems to prevent, detect, and protect against cyber attacks and intrusion. First, continue to monitor the network facilities, servers, firewalls, intrusion detection and prevention system, etc., of the government's central Internet gateway system so as to ensure normal system operation. Second, conduct daily checks on the system status at regular intervals, including the system service utilization, network traffic, system log, alerts of suspicious activities, etc., so as to rigorously prevent cyber attacks and intrusion. And third, issue information security reminder to all BDs to alert them on the issue. On raising the awareness of information security in the community, the OGCIO keeps abreast of global information security trend and development at all times and provides the public with abundant references and latest news on information security through the one-stop InfoSec website, www.infosec.gov.hk. Given the rapid technological developments and the ever-changing information security threats, we'll continue to work with all sectors of the community to enhance the awareness of information security among organizations and members of the public. The Hong Kong Computer Emergency Response Team Coordination Center, HKCERT, established with funding support from the government, provides computer security incident-related services for the Internet community, including coordinating actions in response to computer security incidents, issuing alerts, and raising public awareness on Internet security. The Hong Kong CERT is responsible for receiving security incident reports and offering assistance to the community by providing technical support in response to security incidents. It organizes annual security drills with the relevant stakeholders to ensure that they have the response capacity to tackle cyber attacks. On another front, the police are committed to preventing and combating technology crimes. As far as detection is concerned, a three-tier investigation framework is currently adopted by the police, with investigation units at the levels of the headquarters, the Technology Crime Division of the Commercial Crime Bureau, regions, technology crime units, and police districts to ensure optimal resource utilization for effective and efficient investigation of such crimes. Moreover, a round-the-clock cybersecurity center was set up by the police in December 2012. Through strengthening communication and coordination between the police and stakeholders, conducting thematic researches and auditing network security measures, this center aims to prevent and enhance the response to possible attacks against information systems of critical infrastructures of Hong Kong. Regarding the concern over the information security of the Hong Kong Internet Exchange, Hong Kong IX, of the Chinese University, the OGCIO and the police have contacted the Hong Kong IX to understand the case and provide support. The Hong Kong IX has checked the system setup. The network security and network traffic of Hong Kong IX has all along been closely monitored by the designated personnel round the clock. There's no sign of irregular network traffic or systems being hacked, and everything is under normal operation. The police did not receive any report from the relevant stakeholders on any sign of the information systems being hacked. The police will monitor the situation and continue to maintain close liaison with various stakeholders and will offer assistance when necessary in respect of auditing network security and contingency measures of the relevant facilities. Second and third, the administration is very concerned about the media reports that allege that the local computer systems have been hacked. We'll continue to monitor and ascertain the facts in relation to network security and will actively follow up on any incidents related to intrusion of the rights of institutions or individuals in Hong Kong. The Hong Kong SARG will handle this case strictly in accordance with the law and procedures of Hong Kong. However, we cannot disclose any details of the operations that we have taken or will be taking. In addition, the police are committed to protecting the safety of the people in Hong Kong. Any person who considers that his or her life is at risk may seek help from the police. To conclude, network security is a matter which the whole community should be concerned with. The government, the industry, and all stakeholders should stay highly alert and adopt necessary measures to ensure network security. In addition, this case is highly complicated. We hope that members of the public would understand that the administration's position is that it cannot disclose or discuss any details of this case. Thank you, President. A number of members would like to ask supplementary questions. Members and officials, please be as concise as possible so that as many members as possible can ask questions. Mr. Ma Fung-kwok. Mr. President, on parts 2 and 3 of my question, the administration points out that it is not appropriate to disclose the details. Although I'm not very satisfied with the answer, I understand it. As for a certain point in part 2, that is, the overall report in the media that the U.S. government has done something. At least I have to understand on this particular issue that is not related to the legal framework. Has the SARG sought any clarification from the U.S.? I don't think this involves the specific case. Secretary, Mr. President, and as I mentioned in my main reply, in part 2 of the reply, I expressly point out that we face very squarely this issue. There's a particular report about the computer system of the Chinese university possibly being hacked. After inquiring with them, they told us that they have surveillance round the clock, and they have always been doing that. They did not detect anything. Anyway, we're duly prepared. Mr. Ma Fung-kwok mentioned other reports. We are continuing with our search of the facts and specific contents. As I said in my main reply, I am not in a position to disclose the details. Mr. Albert Ho, thank you, President. Mr. Stephen Ho, Mr. President, the Secretary mentioned firewalls, 3-tier measures, etc. as security measures. Please ask your questions. What are the effects of these measures? Is it, as the Secretary said, since there's no abnormal traffic, it will mean that Hong Kong's internet systems are very, very safe? I'd like to have an explanation from the Secretary. Secretary, Mr. President, whether there's a sudden surge of internet traffic is one of the indicators, but that does not mean that there are no other methods to hack computer systems. For example, in the past 4 years, the police, in terms of illegal hacking, (442 cases, 337 cases, 546 cases, and 1,042 cases in the past 4 years. And this year, we've received 497 such reports up to this moment. And sometimes accounts have been intercepted or hacked, and there are also cyber fraud cases. Such behavior are illegal. The Telecommunications Ordinance provides that without proper authorization, a person cannot use telecommunications to hack computer information. Under the Crimes Ordinance, crimes and dishonest interception of computer information, illegal damage, and damage of the stored information, data, and computer systems are illegal. Between 2008 and 2012, under the Crimes Ordinance, the number of prosecutions were 152 cases with 122 convictions. Therefore, cybercrimes did occur. Nevertheless, the Hong Kong police and other government departments, in relation to such behavior, have adopted corresponding measures. If there are illegal activities, the police will investigate upon receiving reports. As I mentioned in my main reply, we've adopted a series of preventive measures. We have to join hands with the industry, the service providers, and other members of the community to raise their alertness. Prevention is better than cure. Thank you, President. Mr. Wong Ting-kwong. Thank you, President. I noted that there has been an upsurge of cybercrimes. Information security systems are under hacking risks. Newspaper reports disclosed that the computer system of the Chinese university had been hacked, but the Chinese university denied that. Does the police possess sufficient manpower and expertise to handle such complicated crimes? Does the police have any plan to set up more dedicated cybercrime investigation units to cope with such crimes? Secretary for Security. Thank you, President. At present, for the police, for cyber crimes, is done at several levels. First of all, I have to point out that the methodology of cyber crimes is ever advancing. There are 3 tiers of operation in the government. Basically, at the basic level, it will be the investigation officers at the district level, region level. And then on top of that, in the regions, we have the technology crime units with 60 colleagues to handle such cases. For the more serious and systemic crimes involving important system hacking, in the Commercial Crime Bureau, we have a technology crime division with 98 colleagues to handle the cases. 98 represents a 20-odd increase over the past manpower level. Besides, the police has a preliminary support unit with 120 colleagues. These 120 colleagues are not dedicated to such cases, but they have very good knowledge of information technology. As they work in other police units, we've set up a non-dedicated or voluntary unit. If necessary, this unit will be mobilized to assist frontliners to gather at the scene evidence, etc., such that our resources can be duly used and deployed. Of course, to take such action and task, our colleagues have to receive appropriate training. The basic training is that in the police school, internally, we provide to our colleagues dedicated cybercrime training, which cover all trainees. We target particularly the investigation colleagues. Just now I mentioned in the Commercial Crime Bureau we have the Technology Crime Division. That division is particularly for those colleagues with opportunities to handle cyber crimes. They will master the state-of-the-art investigation skills. Internet and network investigation courses are also organized to allow our investigators to understand the latest modus operandi of the criminals. In those training courses, further training is provided. So locally, there's basic training for our officers. And then we have to look at overseas experience because the internet world does not belong to Hong Kong. Secretary, would you please be as concise as possible? The SARG collaborates with overseas jurisdictions and send officers overseas for exchanges. Just now, the honorable member asked about increase in manpower. In 2009, 2010, we have 71 people, and now it's 98. The police will consider, through government procedures, upgrade the manpower level and ability of the Technology Crime Division and give it more support. Mr. James Toh, Mr. President, Mr. Edward Snowden made some allegations which may constitute serious infringement upon our cyber world. The Secretary said the serious details cannot be disclosed, but the heads of states of some other jurisdictions have already said that they had to understand the case more thoroughly with the U.S. government. Are you telling us that the SARG is not even bold enough to clarify the allegations and reports with the U.S. government? Secretary, in my conclusion, I already pointed out that this case is highly complicated. Therefore, what we've done or what we will be doing cannot be disclosed further. Yet, we can clearly say that in handling this case, we'll strictly adhere to the laws of Hong Kong. We're very concerned about local internet security as well as personal rights and privacy being infringed upon. Mr. To, would you please repeat your question briefly? Many governments have already decided to understand the case with the U.S. government and ask it to clarify. Is it that the SARG dare not even seek clarification on facts with the U.S. government? Secretary, can you tell us whether the SARG has tried to understand the facts with the U.S. government? Mr. President, just now I have already stated the government's position. I have nothing to add. Mr. Christopher Chung, Mr. President, I am not satisfied with the Secretary's reply. If members are not satisfied with the Secretary's replies, that always happens. Well, the measures mentioned by him are identical with those adopted in my home. Please ask your question. Apart from measures adopted by ordinary households, does the Secretary have anything at government level to guard against interception of computer systems, cyber hacking, etc.? In terms of operation, how can you guard against leakage of confidential materials? Mr. Chung, you have already asked your question. Please be seated. Which Secretary will answer? Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development. Mr. President, we've already pointed out that we're targeting this issue at two levels. Internally, in the government, as we mentioned very clearly in the main reply, government measures are clearly spelled out. As for the local community, at the end of the day, the end users have to be duly prepared by adopting appropriate measures. So in the past, we've been doing that. At the level of society, we have to be concerned about the internet activities. Here, we do have a coordination center to respond to threats. And when threats are discovered, information in relation to internet protection will be disseminated. The most important point is that computer users have to be very careful. For very important information, they should be encrypted. By doing so, computer users can enhance their own protection. Of course, science and technology are ever advancing. We have to compete with science and technology. That's why we need this coordination center to provide information for our use. Mr. Christopher Chung, what's your question? How many times have government computer systems been hacked? The Secretary has answered your question. He has not answered my question. Mr. Martin Liao, just now the two Secretaries said that prevention is the best method to guard against intrusion. But members of the public are of the view that such public awareness is very weak. Some public computers or computers of the public have not been loaded with antivirus software. Any improvement measures? Who will answer that? SED? Mr. President, all along, the government has been committed to join hands with the stakeholders, the industry, and all sectors of the community to enhance awareness. Mr. Liao was correct in pointing out that if there are no preventive measures for computer systems, then it will be very easy to steal information from your computer system. So prevention is very important. All along, for the government, through various avenues, through the internet, talks, publicity leaflets, internet seminars, APIs, etc., to enhance the awareness of the commerce and industry sectors on Internet security. And we have the InfoSec website, www.infosec.gov.hk, to provide different sectors of the community, professionals, SMEs, teachers, young persons, etc., knowledge about Internet security. Mr. Alan Leong, the Secretary only needs to give a yes or no answer. Has the U.S. government sought help from the DOJ in drafting extradition documents in relation to Mr. Edward Snowden? Secretary? As I mentioned in my main reply, we've already said that on the Snowden case, the SARG will study the laws of Hong Kong. As for the details of our actions, we cannot disclose them. Yes or no? Secretary, can you say yes or no, or you refuse to answer this question? Mr. President, I've already answered that question. Dr. Priscilla Leung. Mr. President, the Snowden case has allowed Hong Kong people to know that Hong Kong people's privacy is open to all. Everybody can see it. Mr. Snowden disclosed something, but in the U.S. is a political crime. From the position of the SARG, even though we have an extradition agreement, can we, in accordance with international practice, refuse to extradite him? Secretary for Security, here I will not comment on Dr. Priscilla Leung's question as to the nature of the case. As for surrendering of fugitives, the Fugitive Offenders Ordinance has already stipulated very clearly under what circumstances what should be done. We'll strictly adhere to laws and procedures. Thank you. Dr. Priscilla Leung. Dr. Priscilla Leung, I think the Secretary has clearly answered your question. Mr. Jeffrey Lam. Thank you, President. The Snowden case has sent Hong Kong a very important message. That is Internet security, and it is very important and should not be slighted or neglected. The government says that it has a whole set of policies and guidelines to minimize the risk of information security attacks and hacker intrusion. But Hong Kong's network systems are not totally safe. Will more resources be allocated to the government to make sure that our internet systems are fully safe and to raise our ability to cope with contingencies? Secretary for Security, in accordance with needs, we'll deploy our manpower resources. If we don't have sufficient manpower or if we need to upgrade our frameworks, we'll actively consider that. Mr. Lam Tai Fai, in the main reply, the government says that all confidential information within the government will be encrypted during transmission, and there are sufficient preventive measures to guard against intrusion. That is, even if the information is stolen, it can't be easily encrypted. So can the government tell us that Snowden was talking rubbish? Can the government tell the public that it is impossible to steal any information from the government? Secretary, up to this moment, Mr. Snowden has not provided any concrete information. Therefore, in that case, it is difficult for us to assess and provide a response. Mr. Lam Tai Fai, can the government guarantee that it is just impossible to steal information from the government? The two secretaries, any supplement? Science and technology are ever advancing. We have to do our preventive work well. Therefore, in our main reply, Mr. President, please do not explain IT to me. Mr. Lam Tai Fai, please be seated. Mr. President, what we can do is to adopt the highest level of security measures. Confidential information will be encrypted during transmission. That is the best method. Mr. Chen Hanpan. Thank you, President. Just now, the Secretary said that there's no abnormal transmission. That means there's no problem. That's really strange. Given the personal safety issue of Mr. Snowden, has the government provided any personal protection for Mr. Snowden? Secretary, I point out in my main reply that the Hong Kong police will be dedicated to protecting public safety. By public safety, I mean every person in Hong Kong. Any person in Hong Kong feels that his safety is under threat, he can seek assistance from the police. Thank you, President. Mrs. Regina Ip. Mr. President, Mr. Snowden, in the information disseminated by him, says that he is most worried that the U.S. government has been intruding the civil cyber world, such as hospitals and universities. A few years ago, a security center was set up to monitor the measures in the private sector. I'd like to know whether we have sufficient ability to protect the private sector systems to guard against huge risks as a result of hacking. Secretary, at the end of December last year, the Cybersecurity Center was set up by the police. One of the objectives is to monitor important network facilities, like those mentioned by the honorable member. Will surveil the internet traffic, which is very helpful in guarding against intrusion, because huge quantities of information can be disseminated through such traffic. With the Hong Kong Association of Banks, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, we have liaison. The Cybersecurity Center, the OGCIO, and the Hong Kong IX have been monitoring all systems in concerned and see what better methods we have to guard against intrusion. And every now and then they're examining these issues. All these measures are important because we would like to ensure that all computer systems can be reliable and safe. And then when hacked, the systems can be restored as soon as possible. This task has to be continued. It cannot be completed overnight, because in the cyber world, new formulae are ever emerging. So round the clock, we have to monitor the global trends. If suddenly we discover that common software have loopholes, then we have to do remedial work. And the remedial work has to be announced to the public, and we'll do this on a continuous basis. Mr. Tam Yu Chung. Mr. Tam, have you put on your microphone? Sorry, Mr. President. I thought I might not get my turn. According to Mr. Snowden, the U.S. government and its related departments have hacked Hong Kong's systems. According to the present laws of Hong Kong, if the government discovers such occurrences, can prosecution be taken out? And after this case, will the government have any plans to amend the laws of Hong Kong? Secretary? At present, Hong Kong does have laws to regulate cyber crimes and internet-related crimes. For example, under the Telecommunications Ordinance, information should not be intercepted illegally. Dishonest use of computer systems are also crimes, and there are certain provisions in relation to the protection of privacy. Although the ordinance does not specifically refer to the Internet, the virtual world, the cyber world, is also covered. In accordance with the relevant laws and procedures, when receiving crime reports, of course, I have to emphasize that I'm not talking about this particular case because I repeatedly said that we'll not make any further disclosure on the case. In this reply, I'm saying that if the police receive such reports, normally how it will go about it. If overseas hackers hack Hong Kong's computer systems, that's cross-border crime. In handling such cases, in investigation and collection of evidence, our police will collaborate with their counterparts in overseas jurisdictions. So time and energy to be spent will be more, and there may be obstacles. Very often, I have to reiterate that I'm not talking about this particular case. Illegal intrusion into computer systems in the course of investigation may involve a number of jurisdictions. As a number of jurisdictions are involved, investigation may not be straightforward. Some offenders may use servers and springboards to hide their crimes. I don't think your reply is directly related to the member's question. Mr. Yu Si-wing. Thank you, Chairman. If Mr. Snowden strongly says that he has been unfairly treated by the U.S. government or may be put under torture to admit what he has done, do the laws of Hong Kong provide him with sufficient protection? Secretary, last year we amended the immigration ordinance. For those with a torture claim, we will have provisions to know how to handle them. Vetting has to be done. There's also an appeal mechanism. Under the Fugitive Offenders Ordinance, it is expressly provided that if any person puts up a torture claim, we have to wait till all the procedures on torture claims be completed before surrendering will be effected. In the Fugitive Offenders Ordinance, that's clearly spelled out. In my reply just now, I was referring to the statutory provisions. I'm not commenting on this particular case. I have to point this out. Mr. Chung Kwok Pan, Mr. Lee Chia-yan, Mr. President, if the U.S. government wants to extradite Mr. Snowden back to the U.S. for trial, is this foreign affairs? We have to seek instruction from the CPG. Have you already asked the CPG how to handle the Snowden case? Secretary for Security, for the surrendering of fugitive offenders and related considerations, there are detailed considerations. The SARG will strictly adhere to the laws and procedures of Hong Kong in handling the case. As regards the details of the provisions, due to time constraints, I won't give the details here. For any case, for any request for surrendering of a fugitive offender, we will not disclose the details. Sorry, Mr. Lee is off mic.
Secretary, any supplement regarding this diplomatic incident? No, Chairman. President. Mr. Tommy Chung. President, if I may put a question to the Secretary for Security. Now, someone has hacked into our computer system in Hong Kong. Or will the Hong Kong ASL government be lodging any complaint with the Consul General? Or will the administration through the Foreign Ministry lodged a protest. Secretary. President, I think the question is hypothetical. Now, we have heard some disclosures in the newspapers. In the principal reply, we have made it very clear that we are concerned about this kind of activity. As to the kind of action that will be taken, it is not appropriate for us to talk about it in public. Mr. Wong Kwok-hing. Mr. Tommy Cheung. President, now, I don't really want to engage the Secretary in a debate as to whether it is hypothetical, but there is a mention of the Chinese University of Hong Kong. Mr. Cheung, the Secretary has already answered your question. If you're not happy, you can follow it up elsewhere. Mr. Wong Kwok-hing, President, under the Basic Law, it is made very clear that the national defense and foreign affairs are part of the mainland authorities' remit. Now, from this Snowden incident, it may touch on these areas. So through the President, I'd like to put this to the Secretary. At the present moment, does the Hong Kong SL government have an intention to liaise with the Central People's Government? Well, I think Mr. Lee Cheung has already put a similar question. Mr. Secretary for Security, any supplement? I've got nothing to supplement, President. Mr. Charles Mock. President, my question is similar to Mr. Aaron Leung. So it's a yes or no question. Now, the question was whether the government has followed this up with the American authorities, like the hacking into the CUHK and so on. Now, has the administration sought an explanation from the U.S. administration about the hacking and what remedial measure would be taken? Secretary for Security. President, we are very concerned about these reports. We have made it abundantly clear, and I'd like to repeat that we'd like to find out about the issue. We'll follow up on this, but because of the complexity of the matter, we cannot disclose the action that has been taken or will be taken. Mr. Sin Chung Kai. I've got my mic clipped on. Where the Secretary mentioned the surrender of fugitives, I'm not asking a specific case. I'm talking about the general legal procedures. Now, in terms of surrender of fugitives, does the person concerned to have the right to make representation in court? Under what circumstances will these representation not be done in public? Secretary for Security. Under the surrender of fugitives ordinance, there are clear procedures to be undertaken in court. Now, when a legal proceeding is going on, will both sides make application with the court to seek special arrangement in court? It's not for me to speculate because this is within the remit of the Court of Law in Hong Kong. Mr. Michael Tin, President. What happened already happened. I'm concerned about going forward. Now, this hacking into a system from overseas, now the Secretary said that there is law applicable to this. Is it going to be an easy task, or is it going to be a difficult task to have the expertise regarding this hacking by outsiders into Hong Kong? How confident are you that you will be able to guard against these kind of hacking activities by overseas institutions? SED. Well, President, as I said in my earlier reply, in relation to the hacking, I think it is important for us to consolidate our defense. And I've told people that they have to use encryption. They have to have proper security. They have to beef up the security to ramp up their defense. This is the best course of action. And we, in terms of the capacity, if we identify any anomaly in the computer traffic, the authorities will pay particular attention. Mr. Tin is not speaking through. Mr. Tin, when I'm talking about law enforcement, you do have the legislation governing this. How are you going to enforce the law for this extraterrestrial kind of hacking? S4S. Well, as I said, hacking activities may not originate from Hong Kong. They may be initiated from different places. When investigating these cases, the police will have to liaise with their counterparts elsewhere. We have to exchange information and tackle these problems jointly. Ms. Emily Lau. Internet security would be very important. It is a very touchy subject, but the authorities have to be monitored. If you look at the experience of other jurisdictions, will there be a committee to be formed to monitor the authorities and to safeguard internet security? S4S. President, well, in relation to information security, myself and the SCED already said that together with the stakeholders, we are taking some action, and we have to work hard to take this forward. And I urge the practitioners in the trade to cooperate with us, and this will enhance our security. Ms. Lau, on this very sensitive question, will the administration be asking LegCo to set up a committee to monitor the administration? As well as I don't see the need for that. There are 4 more members who are on the queue: Ms. Sit Ho, Mr. Kenneth Chen, Mr. Hon Leung Sing, and Dr. Kwok Ki. I'm going to draw a line now after those members. Article 19 of the Basic Law says that the Court of Law in relation to foreign affairs and national defense don't have any jurisdiction, and they have to get certificate from the Chief Executive on questions of facts concerning acts of state, such as defense and foreign affairs. Now, if I may put this to the Secretary, in this regard, who is going to exercise the judgment? Is it the judge? Is it the relevant person concerned? Or is it the person who is subject to extradition? Who can raise this for the court to decide on? S4S. President, from my recollection, we haven't seen any cases of this nature in Hong Kong. Who is going to initiate the procedure? I think it would take a specific case or some specific facts, and both parties to a legal proceeding will have to examine this in the light of the actual circumstances. I don't think I can answer Ms. Sit Ho's question like this. Dr. Kenneth Chen, well, the Secretary for Security has told us some statistics about problems regarding internet security. The CE's office and the administration, will they tell us how many cases previously in which there were hacking activities involved? Secretary, I don't have the statistics with me, and I can go away and see whether the relevant information can be made available. Mr. Hon Leung Sing, President, the U.S. administration made remarks about the smashing some of these internet hacking cases. Now, is the administration aware, or would the administration admit that there are cases in existence in Hong Kong? Secretary, well, I don't think we can surmise, conjecture or speculate whether they have any cases like these from the information. Dr. Kwok, President, Facebook, Google, Yahoo, all these sites are used by the people of Hong Kong told us that millions and millions of emails have been handed over to the U.S. administration. That when Mr. Snowden is in Hong Kong, has the administration invited him to give further disclosure with a view to enhancing Hong Kong's internet security? Secretary. President, we are not going to discuss the action that has been taken or will be taken. That's it for the urgent question.
First.